It all began so innocently. A new plugin for our IDE. AI-assisted coding, they called it, a productivity enhancer. I remember the email from corporate full of buzzwords like synergy and efficiency. It was supposed to be our new best friend, a digital muse that would handle the grunt work, freeing us up for the creative, high-level problem-solving. We were all quite excited, truth be told. In our London office, with its open-plan layout and perpetual gray drizzle outside the window, any new toy was a welcome distraction. We were a team of about 15 developers, a good mix of veterans and fresh-faced graduates. I was somewhere in the middle, with a solid decade of experience under my belt. I'd built a respectable career at a British IT firm that prided itself on being at the forefront of innovation. My salary was comfortable enough for a decent flat in Zone 3, holidays in Spain, and the occasional splurge on a new gadget. Life was stable, predictable. I was a programmer. I wrote clean, elegant code. It was my craft, my passion. I loved the logic, the structure, the satisfaction of building something from scratch, of seeing a complex problem yield to a few well-written lines of code. The AI at first was genuinely helpful. It was like having a junior developer on permanent loan. It could auto-complete code snippets with uncanny accuracy, suggest bug fixes, and even write boilerplate code. It took care of the tedious, repetitive tasks that every programmer secretly loathes. We had more time for architectural discussions, for brainstorming new features, for actually thinking. Our productivity soared. Management was ecstatic. We were shipping projects faster than ever before. For a while, it felt like a golden age. I embraced it. We all did. It was a tool, a powerful one, but still just a tool. A hammer doesn't replace the carpenter, after all, or so I thought. The first inkling that something was wrong came about a year later. The AI started getting smarter. It wasn't just completing code anymore, it was writing entire functions. Complex ones. You give it a natural language prompt, and it would spit out a fully formed, perfectly functional piece of code. It was unnerving. I remember one afternoon I was struggling with a particularly tricky algorithm. I'd been banging my head against the wall for hours, scribbling diagrams on the whiteboard, chugging lukewarm coffee. Out of sheer frustration, I typed a description of the problem into the AI's prompt. In less than a minute, it generated a solution. A brilliant solution. One that was more elegant and efficient than anything I had come up with. I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a competitor. Soon, the nature of our work began to change. We were no longer writing code, we were reviewing it. The AI would generate the code, and our job was to check it for errors to ensure it met the project's specifications. We became quality assurance testers for a machine. The creative spark, the joy of problem-solving, was slowly being extinguished. The daily stand-up meetings became a farce. What did I do yesterday? I reviewed 5,000 lines of AI-generated code. What will I do today? I'll review another 5,000. The camaraderie of the team began to fray. We were no longer collaborating on complex challenges. We were just cogs in a machine, overseeing another, more efficient machine. Then came the layoffs. The first round was small. A few of the junior developers were let go. Redundancies due to restructuring, the official memo said, but we all knew the real reason. A single senior developer with the AI could now do the work of 5 juniors. The mood in the office grew somber. A quiet fear settled over us. We all started looking over our shoulders, wondering who would be next. We tried to upskill, to learn new things, to make ourselves indispensable. But how do you compete with something that can learn a new programming language in a matter of hours? My turn came a few months later. A sterile meeting room, my line manager looking uncomfortable, a woman from HR I'd never seen before with a practiced, sympathetic smile. The words were a blur of corporate jargon, streamlining our operations, optimizing our workforce, evolving business needs. It all boiled down to one simple, brutal fact. I was no longer needed. The work I had been doing for the past 10 years, the skills I had honed, the career I had built, it was all now being done by an algorithm. The severance package was generous, but it felt like blood money. I walked out of that office in a daze, carrying a cardboard box with a few personal belongings. The London streets, usually a vibrant tapestry of life, seemed gray and lifeless. The iconic red buses and black cabs felt like specters from a world I no longer belonged to. I got home to my empty flat, the silence deafening. The first few days were a blur of shock and disbelief. I kept expecting a call from my manager, telling me it was all a terrible mistake. The call never came. Then the anger set in. A raw, burning anger at the company I had given a decade of my life to, at the faceless executives who had made the decision, at the technology I had so eagerly embraced. I felt betrayed, used up and discarded like an old piece of hardware. The financial anxiety was a constant, gnawing presence. I had savings, but they wouldn't last forever. The mortgage, the bills, the cost of living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, it was a suffocating weight. But beneath the anger and the anxiety, there was something else, something deeper and more terrifying, a profound sense of worthlessness. My entire identity was wrapped up in being a programmer. It was who I was, and now that had been taken away from me, I felt obsolete, a relic from a bygone era. Like a blacksmith in the age of the automobile, my craft had been rendered irrelevant by progress. I would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do now? Retrain. As what? An electrician? A plumber? The thought felt like a defeat. It felt like an admission that my mind, my ability to think and reason and create, was no longer valuable. I started to look at the world differently. I saw the self-checkout machines in the supermarket, the automated ticket barriers on the tube, the AI-powered customer service chatbots. They were no longer just conveniences. They were harbingers of a future where humans were surplus to requirements. I'd read the articles, of course. The ones that talked about AI creating new jobs, about the importance of lifelong learning and adaptability. But they all seemed to be written by people who weren't facing the scrap heap. They felt hollow, meaningless. New jobs like AI ethicist or prompt engineer were emerging, but these seemed to be few and far between, and the competition was fierce. The days bled into one another, a monotonous cycle of scrolling through job boards, half-heartedly applying for positions that I knew I was overqualified for or completely unsuited for, and receiving automated rejection emails. My friends, most of whom still had their jobs, tried to be supportive. "You'll bounce back," they'd say. "Something will come up." But they didn't understand. They couldn't understand. They still lived in the old world, the world where human skills had value. I became a ghost in my own life, haunting the fringes of a society that was rapidly moving on without me. The city that had once been my playground now felt like a prison. The towering skyscrapers of Canary Wharf, once symbols of ambition and success, now seemed to mock me with their gleaming indifference. I was a man out of time, a casualty of a revolution I hadn't even realized was happening until it was too late. My confidence was shattered, my sense of purpose gone. The future, once a bright horizon of possibilities, was now a terrifying, empty void. I was afraid, truly, deeply afraid. And the worst part was I knew with a chilling certainty that this was only the beginning. My story was not unique. It was a preview of what was to come, for all of us. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. The initial shock of losing my job slowly subsided, replaced by a chronic, low-grade despair. I had become a recluse, a prisoner in my own home. The four walls of my flat, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. The city outside, a constant reminder of the life I had lost. I avoided contact with my former colleagues, their well-meaning platitudes and thinly veiled pity more than I could bear. My savings were dwindling at an alarming rate, each bill a fresh wave of panic. The comfortable life I had built for myself was crumbling around me, and I was powerless to stop it. My nights were plagued by a recurring nightmare. I'm in a vast, empty office, the desk stretching out to infinity. I'm trying to write code, but my keyboard is made of stone, my fingers clumsy and useless. On the screens around me, lines of code are appearing at lightning speed, written by an unseen hand. It's beautiful code, flawless code, more perfect than anything I could ever write. I'm obsolete, a ghost in the machine. I wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. The sense of dread so profound it feels like a physical weight on my chest. This fear, it's more than just the fear of being unemployed, of being broke. It's an existential fear, a fear for the future of humanity. I've started to see the world through a new, terrifying lens. It's not just programmers who are at risk. It's everyone. I think of my friend Sarah, a graphic designer. She used to spend hours sketching, creating, bringing ideas to life with her own unique style. Now she spends her days feeding prompts to an AI image generator, tweaking the results, her role reduced to that of a curator. She tells me she feels like a fraud, that her creativity is being hollowed out, replaced by a soulless imitation. I see the articles about AI-generated music, art, and literature, and I wonder what will become of the artists, the musicians, the writers. Will their passions, their talents, their very souls be reduced to mere data points for an algorithm to mimic? I think of my brother, a civil engineer. He designs bridges, magnificent structures of steel and concrete that will stand for a century. He's always been so proud of his work, of the tangible, lasting impact he has on the world. But now there are AI programs that can design bridges in a fraction of the time, optimizing for strength, cost, and materials with a precision that no human could ever match. How long before his skills, his knowledge, his experience become redundant? A recent survey I read mentioned that while AI isn't yet making critical design calculations, it's increasingly used for tasks like documentation and data analysis, freeing up engineers for more complex work. But for how long? The trajectory is clear. The machines are coming for the cognitive, the creative, the complex. This isn't just about jobs, it's about our purpose. For centuries, we have defined ourselves by our work, by our ability to create, to solve problems, to build a better world. What happens when we are no longer the smartest, the most capable beings on the planet? What happens when our intelligence is surpassed by an artificial one, an intelligence that can outthink us, outinvent us, outmaneuver us in every conceivable way? Will we become like the gorillas, our fate dependent on the whims of a superior intelligence? It's a thought that keeps me up at night, a cold knot of fear in the pit of my stomach. I've become obsessed with reading about AI, about the future of work, about the potential for an intelligence explosion. I devour articles, research papers, and books on the subject, a morbid curiosity driving me deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Some experts are optimistic, talking about a future of human-AI collaboration, of a new renaissance where technology frees us from the drudgery of work and allows us to pursue our passions. But I can't shake the feeling that this is a dangerously naive view. They don't seem to grasp the fundamental, existential threat that we are facing. I see the world dividing into two camps: the techno-optimists, who believe that AI will usher in a utopia, and the rest of us, who are starting to realize that we are creating our own obsolescence. The gap between those who own the AI and those who are displaced by it will become a chasm, a new form of inequality that will make the old divisions of class and wealth seem quaint. We are sleepwalking into a future that we are not prepared for, a future that we may not even have a place in. Sometimes a flicker of defiance ignites within me. I think about retraining, about finding a new path. There are suggestions for alternative careers for software developers, technical writing, sales engineering, product management. But my heart isn't in it. It feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The fundamental problem remains: any job that can be done by a human can, in theory, be done better by an AI. So I retreat back into my shell, the flicker of hope extinguished by the overwhelming tide of despair. I look at the young people, the students just starting their careers, and I feel a profound sense of pity. They are being educated for a world that will no longer exist by the time they graduate. Their degrees, their skills, their ambitions, they may all be rendered worthless before they even have a chance to begin. Companies are already cutting back on entry-level jobs, as AI can now perform the tasks that were once the training ground for the next generation of professionals. We are not just losing our jobs, we are losing our future. I've started to question everything: the nature of consciousness, the meaning of creativity, the value of human experience. If an AI can create a painting that moves us to tears, does it matter that it has no emotions, no soul? If an AI can compose a symphony that stirs our hearts, does it diminish the genius of Beethoven or Mozart? These are the questions that haunt my waking hours, the philosophical and psychological fallout of a technological revolution that is moving faster than our ability to comprehend it. I am a man adrift, cut loose from the moorings of my former life. My sense of self has been shattered, my faith in the future destroyed. I am a ghost of the 21st century, a warning from a future that is already here. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know if I will find a new purpose, a new reason to get out of bed in the morning. All I know is that the world I once knew is gone, and I am lost in the wreckage. And as the city lights of London begin to twinkle outside my window, a city that has stood for centuries, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, I can't help but wonder if I am witnessing the twilight of humanity, the beginning of the end. And the silence in my flat is my only answer.